Can my favorite 14-inch laptop from 2023 and 2024 take on the latest ASUS ProArt PX13? This laptop has more RAM, a larger CPU, but this has a larger GPU, and there's a lot more features in the latest PX13. So let's go dive into the features, the usability, and the performance to see which laptop is right for your needs, and honestly, right for my needs. Now, first and foremost, let's take a look at the build quality. Now, we have aluminum top covers on both laptops, and you can see from the form factor, the PX13 is obviously a much smaller laptop. We're going to have a little bit more screen real estate out of the 14-inch Lenovo Legion Slim 5, the 14-inch model, than, of course, this 13-inch. But we'll get into that in just a few minutes. We're looking at the build quality right now. We have an aluminum top cover, aluminum bottom covers on both laptops, and then for the keyboard deck, plastic keyboard deck for the Slim 5, 14, and aluminum keyboard deck for the PX13. Now, close them down a little bit more here. We're gonna go ahead and check out the weight and thickness. Got a little bit more thickness on the Slim 5, but they're about the same weight. So on-the-go friendliness is going to be about the same for these two devices. Now, in regards to the ports and connectivity, Lenovo Legion Slim 5 14-inch model versus the PX13, we have two USB Type-Cs on the left side, USB-C, HDMI, power adapter, and headphone jack for the PX13. Along the back side, we have no ports on the PX13. We've got two USB Type-A's, HDMI, and a power adapter. And then along the other side, we have an SD card reader and a headphone jack. We have a USB-C, USB-A, micro SD card reader. So the big difference here is going to be, of course, micro SD card reader versus full-size SD card reader. So that's a bit of a stretch. Which one is right for you? Do you like to expand your storage on the go and bring in micro SD cards like from a DJI product? Whereas, normal cameras, whereas more like photography cameras and some Sony video cameras are going to have the SD cards. And that might be more advantageous to you here. Or you can, back up your footage on a micro SD card and leave it inserted in the computer, and it kind of might be an expansion storage experience. Now, one thing I want to point out with these two models in regards to the upgrade path, they are both soldered RAM. We have 16 gigs of RAM for the Slim 5, 32 gigs of RAM for the PX13. Both of them do have upgradable M.2. But we have two upgradable M.2s, one occupied, one unoccupied for the Slim 5 versus simply one M.2 slot for the PX13. So the upgrade path is a little bit better on the Slim 5. Obviously, it's a bit thicker, a little bit larger of a form factor here. So there's more space to be able to have that secondary M.2 slot. Now let's go ahead and dive into the internals of the devices here. I'm gonna go ahead and open and close the screen with one hand. Easily done with both laptops. Let's check out the screen bounce. There's a little bit more screen bounce on the PX13. You can see it bounces a little longer there. Screen flex, you can see that the screen's a bit thicker on the Slim 5. About the same screen flex as well. Let's go ahead and check the top cover press. I would say there's a little bit more top cover press on the Legion, just for my kind of scope of reference. All right, gonna open these back up again. And of course, these are two very unique devices, but this is one of my favorite devices, and this is becoming one of my favorite devices, so I thought I've got to put them head to head. One of the big advantages of the PX13 is that it's a 2-in-1 laptop. It has a touchscreen for digital artists that is pen compatible, as well as the fancy-dancy ASUS dial, okay? Now, when we look at the interior of the Slim 5, we have a glossy display, and you can see as I line them up next to each other, there's about a ½ an inch more display in regards to the height on the 14-inch model. So you're gonna get a little bit more screen real estate, especially if you like that 16:10 aspect ratio. Now looking at the interior of the laptop, very similar design. You can see we have full-size shift keys on both sides. We have these more curved at the bottom keys for the Slim 5. But they both have a quiet, medium key travel. Full-size shift keys. The arrow keys are very similar, except we have our page up and page down keys here, which these are actually integrated into the function buttons on the PX13. Now let's go ahead and do a tiny tour on the dial and the pen. Now the dial is really nice. You can go ahead and you can program it to increase and decrease your brush size. It can scroll through your timeline in Premiere Pro. You can change your brush type. You can change your hardness of your brush, the opacity of your brush, all with the dial, so you don't have to jump into shortcuts. The pen, that goes without saying. You can go ahead and sketch within Photoshop. You can go ahead and draw, mess with your designs, touch up your photos, whatever it might be with the pen. So that is just a clear advantage to the PX13. However, let's talk about what that'll cost you, okay? If you can find this laptop, and some people might be mad that I'm reviewing a laptop that's difficult to find, but if you can find the laptop here, the Slim 5, you can find it on sale from about the $1,100 price point to about the $1,300 price point. Retail, this was MSRP at about $1,599. With the PX13, that's about the retail price as well. So it's actually a fairly reasonably priced laptop, the PX13. But if you want to get the exact pricing and availability of each of the laptops, I recommend heading down in the description below and clicking those links. If you do make a purchase, I'll get a small commission, but at no extra cost to you. But of course, that's what keeps this channel alive and the helpful content coming your way. Now, we have been looking at the keyboards. Let's take a look at the trackpads. Very similar noise in regards to the click, a normal kind of clicky trackpad that comes on your standard laptop. Not going to annoy your neighbors, pretty standard stuff. Now I'm going to give you a sample of both the keyboards and the trackpad so you can hear what they sound like in use. Okay, now before we move on, let's go ahead and check the sizing differences. You can see that the PX13 is a little bit bigger, but not by much. So not a huge advantage going on there from the PX13. Now, as we shift our focus, let's check out the webcams on each of these devices. Both of them have a webcam on the top bezel. This is the webcam on the Lenovo Legion Slim 5 14-inch model, and a little sample of the audio for you as well. This is the webcam on the ASUS ProArt PX13, and a little sample of the audio for you as well. And in regards to the speakers, they both have pretty good speakers. Here's the audio sample so you can hear both of them. Now, battery life, which one is going to keep you on the go longer? And it's going to be the PX13. We have nearly the same battery size in both of these devices. However, we're seeing that ASUS is able to tune it a little bit better than the Lenovo Legion Slim 5 14-inch model. Now, all of these are run at 20% screen brightness, Windows battery saver mode turned on with the GPUs turned off. And that is how you're getting the results you see in these two laptops. Now let's talk about the specs before we get into the performance benchmarks. Now, first and foremost, we've got two pretty different laptops before us. We have the Ryzen 7 7840HS, RTX 4060, 16 gigs of RAM, and a 512 SSD for the Slim 5 14-inch model. For the PX13, we have the AMD Ryzen AI9 HX 370. We have an RTX 4050. We have 32 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte SSD. Now going ahead and taking a look at the benchmarks, you can see in the simulated benchmarks, there's a bit of an advantage in both single core and multi-core for Geekbench, as well as Cinebench 2024 going to the PX13. As you head down into Photoshop, we do see again a spread in the benchmarks. A 8,343 compared to the Lenovo Legion Slim 5 14-inch at 6,480. A lot of that is going to be due to the fact that we have 16 gigs of RAM and an HS series processor compared to the HX, and being the most current generation processor inside of the PX13. Now moving down the line a little bit more, let's go ahead and check out the 3D modeling benchmarks. You can see that for Autodesk 3ds Max, Autodesk Maya, and PTC Creo, that we have an advantage for the PX13. And that's even with an RTX 4050, not the 4060. Moving into SolidWorks, you can see we have a bit of an advantage from the Slim 5 14-inch model. So tomato, tomato, the results are up to you to discern. So if you're looking for 3D modeling, even with the RTX 4050, you're gonna have a bit of an advantage out of the PX13. Now moving to the 4K export, you can see that we have a 2-minute and 29-second export out of the PX13 and a 2-minute and 36-second export out of the Slim 5. Very, very little advantage by either of these laptops. Now moving on into 6K, 16 minutes and 57 seconds from the PX13, 17 minutes and 21 seconds from the Slim 5. Super close there again. In regards to 4K playback, Slim 5, 0 drop frames for 4K, 68 drop frames for 6K B-RAW, and 209 for red footage. Really good results. 0 drop frames for 4K for the PX13, 108 for B-RAW, 1,842 for red footage. So you can see that that RTX 4060 was pretty helpful there for the playback with 6K footage. The Slim 5 14-inch model has been my favorite small form factor laptop. Best bang for buck over the past 2 years. Now we've got the new kid on the block. I wouldn't exactly consider it the cheapest laptop, but the MSRPs are very similar. Now, if you can still find this laptop, you're going to be able to find it on a good sale, but the supplies are continuing to diminish. But I still wanted to give it its proper place in my content lineup while I still have seen some available. Looking over at the PX13, small form factor, solid battery life, pretty reasonable price point, and optimized components. An RTX 4050 is showing us really great performance out of the PX13, just as the RTX 4060 did over the past couple of years in the Slim 5 14-inch model. That's why I put these two laptops head to head, because though they have the kind of lower end GPUs in the scale of RTX 4070s, 4080s, and 4090s, these are again the kind of lower end of the GPUs from a performance standpoint, they're optimized very well. And so you get a lot for your money with these two devices. Now, where I stand today, I still really do like the little bit larger 14-inch screen on the Legion Slim 5 14-inch model. However, the performance, the dial, the pen compatibility, the 2-in-1 functionality, I think I have a new champion at the moment. But you've got to tell me what your opinion is. Remember, there are links in the description below if you're ready to make a purchase. Click or tap the screen for more videos to help you figure out which laptop is right for your needs as a creative professional. I'll see y'all here in the next one.